September 11th, 2001, the day the world changed. What happened? On September 11th, 2001, terrorists hijacked or took control of 4 airplanes in the United States. They flew 2 of the planes into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, causing the towers to catch fire and collapse. Another plane destroyed part of the Pentagon building, which is the U.S. military headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. The 4th plane crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. All told, nearly 3,000 people were killed in the attacks. The events of September 11th, often called 9/11, have been described as the worst ever terrorist attacks against the United States. In this first video, History Channel will take us through a timeline of events of the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City.
September 11th, 2001. A day of grief. A day of courage. This is how that day unfolded.
My daughter called me. She said, plane just flew into the World Trade Center. I said, nah, you gotta be kidding. It's gotta be a Piper Cub or some clown was flying down the river.
At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston, with 92 aboard, traveling at a speed of 470 miles per hour, strikes the North Tower of the World Trade Center complex. Within minutes, officials coordinate the citywide emergency response. Their base of operations is a state-of-the-art command center located on the 23rd floor of 7 World Trade Center. With one tower in flames, the tragedy is only beginning. It is 9:03 when United Airlines Flight 175, with 65 aboard, traveling at the speed of 590 miles per hour, smashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. This aircraft strikes the corner of the South Tower. It rips a diagonally shaped gash from the 84th to the 78th floors. The South Tower lasts only 56 minutes before it succumbs at 9:59 a.m. The dust cloud billows outward for blocks. Victims stagger away. At 10:28, the television mast atop the North Tower spears straight down.
Once the collapse started, there really wasn't any way to stop it. It was just going to go all the way down once it got started.
Chaos in New York City. Power is down in Lower Manhattan. Phone lines jammed with more than 230 million calls. Hundreds of firefighters trapped in the towers. Hundreds more race to the scene. Falling debris from the collapse of the North and South Towers ignites fires in the neighboring buildings of the World Trade Center. World Trade 4, 5, and 6 are ablaze. World Trade 7, the building housing the city's command center, burns unchecked for 7 hours. At 5:20, it collapses. The city's emergency nerve center is destroyed.
Somewhere in that time, and it's very hard to keep track of time during this, they had been ordered to evacuate number 7 by the Port Authority. To this day, we don't know who gave that order, but whoever it was saved a lot of people's lives.
With New York a war zone, some residents walk across the Brooklyn Bridge to get out of the city. Others seek escape in vessels piloted by the Army Corps of Engineers. At 7:45 p.m., the New York Police Department says 78 officers are missing and estimates that 200 firefighters are dead. At 10:56 p.m., police officials say they believe there are victims alive in the rubble of the World Trade Center.
Working with urban search and rescue teams, there was a lot of areas to be searched underneath the debris field. There were voids that had to be searched for possible live people.
September 11th, 2001, the longest and most tragic day in New York's history, is drawing to a close.
Unfortunately, the attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City were only part of a larger terrorist attack against the United States. There was also a plane that was flown into the side of the Pentagon. In this video, you will hear some people talk about what happened at the Pentagon that day.
At the point that the second tower was hit, I don't think any of us had any idea of the breadth or magnitude of what could possibly happen. So when the Pentagon was hit, that kind of expanded our understanding of just how vast the potential was for this to affect everyone in America.
The fact that our Pentagon, our defense headquarters, could be hit by a commercial airliner and do that kind of damage was kind of mind-blowing, because the correlation was quite clear. If the Pentagon wasn't safe, nowhere is safe.
It was important to go downstairs and get outside, which I did. And as we came around the corner, we could see the fire and the smoke. There were pieces of the aircraft spread across the grassy area outside the building.
I reached out to Secretary Rumsfeld from Air Force One, and I was not able to get him. And it turns out one reason why is that he was becoming a first responder at the Pentagon. He was helping rescue people.
That was when it first really hit me, as I saw the billowing cauldron of black smoke coming out of the western wall of the Pentagon. That's when it became very, very real for me.
Before 9/11, I had never flown over the Pentagon. It just wasn't part of the appropriate air traffic control routing. Once the Pentagon got hit, and we weren't there, we were all very frustrated and angry that we weren't there to protect and defend.
It psychologically, I think, took a toll on the American psyche and made us really recognize that how vulnerable the White House is sitting there in its lawn with its little fence around it, and how the Capitol was just a target in waiting.
It was a rude awakening. Not that terrorism existed, we knew that, but that it could be brought right home, right here in the United States. And it, I think, energized the country to recognize that the task before us was to not win a war, not win a battle, and not think that we can accomplish our goals only with bullets, but to recognize that it's an ideological struggle, as communism was, and that we need to be patient and persistent and tolerant.
There was one more aspect to the terrorist plan that day, and that included Flight 93. The story of Flight 93 is unique and harrowing, and therefore I find it very important to share with you today. United Airlines Flight 93 is a regularly scheduled early morning nonstop flight from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco, California, and departed at 8:42 a.m., just minutes before the first hijacked plane struck the World Trade Center. The flight's takeoff had been delayed for nearly 45 minutes due to air traffic at Newark International Airport. The plane carried 7 crew members and 33 passengers, less than half of its maximum capacity. Also on the flight were 4 hijackers who had successfully boarded. The plane's late departure had disrupted the terrorist timeline for launching their attack. Unlike the hijackers on the other 3 planes, they did not attempt to gain control of the aircraft until 40 minutes into the flight. Meanwhile, Ed Ballinger, a flight dispatcher for United Airlines, was taking steps to warn flights of possible cockpit intrusions. At 9:19 a.m., Ballinger informed pilots of the attacks on the World Trade Center. Flight 93 received his transmission at 9:23 a.m. Captain Jason Dull responded at 9:26 a.m. to request clarification. At roughly 9:28 a.m., the terrorists successfully infiltrated the plane's cockpit, and air traffic controllers heard what they believed to be 2 Mayday calls amid sounds of a struggle. At 9:32 a.m., a hijacker, who was a trained pilot, was overheard on the flight data recorder directing the passengers to sit down and stating that there was a bomb aboard the plane. The flight data recorder also shows that this terrorist reset the autopilot, turning the plane around to head back east. The passengers huddled in the back of the plane and, along with the crew of Flight 93, made a series of calls on their cell phones and the in-flight airphones, informing family members and officials on the ground of the plane's hijacking. When they learned the fate of the 3 other hijacked flights in New York City and Washington, D.C., the passengers realized that their plane was involved in a larger terrorist plot and would likely be used to carry out further attacks on U.S. soil. At 9:57 a.m., the passengers and crew members aboard Flight 93 began their counterattack, as recorded by the cockpit voice recorder. In response, the hijacker piloting the plane began to roll the aircraft, pitching it up and down to throw the charging passengers off balance. Worried that the passengers would soon break through the cockpit, the hijackers made the decision to crash the plane before reaching their final destination. At 10:02 a.m., the plane then rolled onto its back and plowed into an empty field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania at 580 miles per hour. The fireball from the plane, which was carrying at the time 7,000 gallons of fuel, scorched hundreds of acres of earth and set the surrounding trees ablaze for hours. The crash site in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, near the town of Shanksville, was littered with the wreckage from the fragmented plane, with the debris field scattered nearly 8 miles away from the initial point of impact. Despite the devastation, investigators were able to recover both the plane's flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, or black box, which was found burrowed more than 25 feet below the ground. In the weeks following the September 11th attacks, temporary memorials to the victims of United Flight 93 were erected at the Pennsylvania crash site and elsewhere, and in 2002, Congress established the Flight 93 National Memorial to create a permanent tribute to the plane's passengers and crew. The first phase of the memorial was completed in time for the 10th anniversary of the terrorist attacks in September 2011. In this next video, you will get to see what that memorial looks like.
I think it tells the story. Visitors can see the flight path to get a sense of the battle that was taking place aboard Flight 93. They can read about the individuals. They can see the aftermath, the investigation, information about that investigation. So I do think that it does a wonderful job of giving visitors a sense of those events.
I was privileged to have, Diora all my life, so now she's a part of the visitors' lives as they come through.
After the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City, it was important for the people of the city and the United States to heal and rebuild. And one thing that they did to help rebuild and heal was construct One World Trade Center. Another part of the healing process was creating a memorial to all those who lost their lives in the September 11th attacks.
The tragedy of September 11, 2001 changed New York and the people of the United States forever. The 9/11 Memorial is one of New York's newest and most solemn sites, and among the most visited. Chosen from over 5,200 entries submitted by teams in 63 nations, the memorial design includes 2 reflecting pools that sit within the footprint of the World Trade Center's Twin Towers. Each pool covers nearly an acre. Bronze panels with the names of everyone who died in the 2001 and 1993 attacks surround the pools, reminding visitors of the human cost of 9/11. The terrorist attacks on that single day caused the largest loss of life from a foreign attack on American soil, and the greatest single loss of first responders in American history. The largest man-made waterfall in North America fills the air with the soothing sound of cascading water. The museum at the site explores the significance of 9/11 and celebrates an unwavering commitment to the value of human life. One World Trade Center is the leading building of the new World Trade Center complex. It has been constructed with a spire reaching a symbolic 1,776 feet in reference to the year of American independence. The new complex will also feature 3 other high-rise office buildings. One key symbol of the memorial is a calorie pear tree called the Survivor Tree. It was recovered from the World Trade Center site in October 2001, long after recovery workers expected to find anything alive. At the time of recovery, it was badly burned and had only one living branch. Over the years, its continued survival has turned the tree into a powerful symbol of hope and rebirth.
Another part of remembering 9/11 is never forgetting those who served. A total of 2,996 people were killed in the 9/11 attacks, including the 19 terrorist hijackers aboard the 4 planes. Citizens of 78 countries died in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. At the World Trade Center, 2,763 people died after the 2 planes slammed into the Twin Towers. That figure includes 343 firefighters and paramedics, 23 New York City police officers, and 37 Port Authority police officers who were struggling to complete an evacuation of the buildings and save the office workers trapped on the higher floors. At the Pentagon, 189 people were killed, including 64 on American Airlines Flight 77, the airliner that struck the building. On Flight 93, 44 people died when the plane crash-landed in Pennsylvania. One of those people, and a hero that should never be forgotten, is Stephen Siller. He was a New York firefighter. On September 11, 2001, Stephen, who was assigned to Brooklyn Squad 1, had just finished his shift and was on his way to play golf with his brothers when he got word over his scanner of a plane hitting the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Upon hearing the news, Stephen called his wife Sally and asked her to tell his brothers he would catch up with them later. He returned to Squad 1 to get his gear. Stephen drove his truck to the entrance of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, but it had already been closed for security purposes. Determined to carry out his duty, he strapped 60 pounds of gear to his back and raced on foot through the tunnel to the Twin Towers, where he gave up his life while saving others. Stephen had everything to live for: a great wife, 5 wonderful children, a devoted extended family and friends. Stephen's parents were lay Franciscans, and he grew up under the guiding philosophy of St. Francis of Assisi, whose encouraging and inspirational phrase, "While we have time, let us do good. were the words that Stephen lived by. Stephen's life and heroic death serve as a reminder to us to live life to the fullest and spend our time here on earth doing good. This is his legacy. Stephen's family did not want his death to be in vain, and after his death created the Stephen Siller Foundation and Tunnel to Towers. Tunnel to Towers raises funds through 5Ks and stair races to build smart homes for emergency personnel, first responders, and military service members who are injured in the line of duty. These smart houses will allow these individuals to live a more normal and happy life with their families. In this video, we get to see a little bit of what those 5Ks are like and just see the emotion and love that comes from Stephen's family and their care for never letting Stephen's story be forgotten, just like all of the other first responders who put their lives on the line that day to save others.
Welcome everybody to the 12th annual Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Run. This year bigger and better than ever.
Our foundation was started in honor of my brother, New York City firefighter Stephen Siller, who on September 11, 2001, strapped 65 pounds of gear on his back and ran through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel to the towers, where he gave up his life while saving others.
An event that brings so many wonderful memories and so many sad memories. But the most important thing is that the Siller family and all of you have turned Stephen's sacrifice into something good, something lasting, something that will help our most important Americans, those who serve and fight and suffer for us.
It's only teenage wasteland. Daddy, take my hand. Travel down across the end. Put out the fire. Don't wanna pass my shoulder. The exodus is here. The happy one.
The Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation is so proud and honored to serve American military heroes and first responders. Our Building for America Bravest programs construct specially adapted smart homes for our most catastrophically injured service members.
This has been a great adventure for me, and along the way we've had tons of support. And for me, if I had legs, I'd just make a team of runners, but I have wheels now, so I kind of feel a connection to my motorcycle riders out there.
These heroes need homes. These homes are designed for their specific injuries. We are committed to this mission. We invite you to join us. We are Building for America's Bravest.
If you're interested in learning more about Stephen Siller and the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, there is a website that you can go to and learn about all of his story, as well as find different 5Ks and tower stair runs. And they happen all over the United States. They don't just happen out in New York. And last but not least, where do we go from here? Well, the events of September 11th, 2001 changed the face of our country and the world as a whole. In this dark time, the citizens of the United States came together as a united front and worked to heal, recover, and move forward as one. To honor all those who were affected by this tragic series of events, the best thing we can do is never forget and keep sharing their stories with all who will listen. Be kind to others and do our best to educate ourselves, expanding our worldview so that we can better understand how to communicate with those whose stories are different from our own. And last but not least, give thanks to those who serve and protect us on a daily basis. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this lesson today. I hope that it meant something. What we need to do next is find the quiz called 9/11 Remembrance Response Question and complete that. After you've completed that, please continue to work on any and all missing assignments. Thank you again, and have a great rest of the day and a great weekend.